Now I know I made a promise to you guys a couple weeks or months back that I will be getting some new equipment, or wood in this case. Well, they're finally here. I got a new camera, some new lights, and also a brand new gimbal. But in this video, I will be speaking about that new camera. And that new camera is the Panasonic Lumix S5. Nice, isn't it? Well, this is just a photo I got from Google. This isn't the actual camera because I'm using the actual Lumix S5 that I got to record this video. But I went out and took some photos, as I will be going through the photography aspect of this camera first before I touch videos. So I'm gonna break it into two videos. So I'm gonna do some photo tests so you guys can see the photography quality this camera has to offer. Let's dive right into this video, King Crisis style.
You are watching King Crisis TV.
So as it relates to specs, the Panasonic S5 is a hybrid stills and video camera that has a 24 megapixel full frame sensor. Like the other members of the Lumix S family, it uses the L mount developed by Sigma and Leica. The S5 has a built-in 5-axis image stabilization, which can reduce shake by up to 6.5 stops with compatible lenses. A high-res mode uses the IS system to produce a 96 megapixel image with much higher levels of details. It has a fully articulating LCD with 1.8 million dots and a large electric viewfinder with 2.36 million dots. Even though I won't be discussing videos in detail in this video, the S5 can capture up to 4K 10-bit of up to 60 frames per second, and it also has V-Log and V-Gamut, which is claimed to have a dynamic range of over 14 stops. Panasonic has improved the accuracy of continuous autofocus in video mode and face, eye, body recognition accuracy in all shooting modes. The S5 has mic and headphone sockets and supports Panasonic's XLR adapter. The compact but well-built body is weather sealed and has two SD card slots, one of the two supporting UHS 2 speeds. It has dual band Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. The camera can be powered and charged over its USB connector. So, from the specs that I just mentioned, we can already see that this Lumix S5 is already packing a lot of punches for its small body and also its affordable price. I got this unit here on Amazon for only 2,000 USD with the kit 20 to 60 millimeter kit lens. I already said kit included in the package. Sweet, isn't it? So a few of the things that I love about this camera is the design, the usability, the buttons available, the focus, because you know Panasonics aren't the best at focus. So this one took it to, I think this is the best autofocus on any Panasonic camera that I have ever used. It's not the best of all the autofocus I've ever used, but this is the best one on any Panasonic camera that I have ever used. It's nice and it's usable. Another thing that I like about this camera is the ergonomics. The grip is very comfortable. The body feels very stable and solid. It's rugged, it's weather sealed. It's a beautiful piece of camera just looking at it. Yeah, it's sexy and it's so compact and it's not too big, it's not too small. It doesn't look like a little piece of box attached to a huge lens. It's balanced. I love that about it. And it is also light enough to fit on the DJI Ronin RS-C2, which is the gimbal that I use, with all the accessories stringed to the camera and also to the gimbal, such as the Raven Eye, my microphone, an ND filter, the kit lens that I got with the camera, and so on and so forth. And it didn't have any extra strain or pain on the gimbal. I love that. I also love the look of all Panasonic cameras. To be honest, I like the way they look robust, they look sleek, they look ahead of their time, similar to Sony. So I'm gonna go through a few photos that I took this camera outside to take, and you guys can see the quality of photos that this camera has to offer. It's shooting with a 24 megapixel sensor that I mentioned before, which is 6000 by 4000 pixels when the image is captured. It captures RAW and JPEG. It captures JPEG in standard format, also fine format. So you're getting beautiful JPEG straight from the camera if you're not a RAW photo shooter. Like myself, I shoot RAW, and then I may add a few edits and tweaks in post using Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop. So I got the camera in early September and I took it on a couple photo shoots with me. I don't really use it for my main photography camera as I am still using my Nikon D3500. The main reason why I'm still using my Nikon D3500 is because I'm still used to that as my go-to photography camera. But as it relates to videos, I use my Lumix S5, and the video review is coming in the future as I stated earlier. So until I get 100% comfortable with using the Lumix for my photography, I haven't dig deep into all the specs, the features of the Lumix. I'm still getting used to it, so I'm not going to take it on any serious shoots and then I have issues and I don't know what to do. So I take the Nikon, which I know like the back of my hand. But from using the Panasonic for the couple shoots I've had, it's a pretty amazing camera. Trust me, it makes photography easier. It's true what they say, with the more expensive an equipment is, it's the easier the job is. Trust me, because this camera, it's super sharp even with the kit lens. The colors are rich. I use Lightroom Creative Cloud version to edit my photos, and I can tweak the colors in Lightroom. I can add a little sharpness and add my touch and grades to it, and the photos hold up pretty well. They're amazing. Not that it wasn't like that with my Nikon, but with the Panasonic, the snapping process is way easier than it is on the Nikon, because on the Nikon, if I'm viewing back the photos from the camera or on my laptop, it's not as clean and as appealing as the finished product is. But with the Lumix, I have to do very little work in Lightroom to bring the photos to where I want them to be. The shadows are alright, the white balance is perfect, even though I like to set my own custom white balance for each time I'm taking photos or videos. So yeah, it's an amazing camera as it relates to photos. And as I go through these photos, I will be showing you guys a few samples that I took. I took some still lifes. I went to the sculpture park at my university and took some photos of some statues. They're pretty amazing. I like to tweak my greens and bring them to the yellow side of the color spectrum. I don't like to show rich greens in most of my photos. I will do it if I have to do, but most of the time I will lean to the yellow side of the color spectrum to give it that gold and warm look. I like my photos having that warm, slight magenta, slight yellow look, and I like to push my saturation up a bit. So yeah, as I said before, it's very sharp. This lens, even though it's the kit lens, it's a very cheap lens, about $600 on its own on Amazon. It's holding up pretty well for a cheap lens compared to the other L-mount lens out there, because trust me, full frame cameras and L-mount lenses are very expensive compared to Canon lenses. I can say that. Now the dynamic range, I know Panasonic has something called HLG. It holds up pretty well. It's amazing because you can still see the details in the shadows even when the photo is turned directly in the direction of the sun, as seen in this image here with the wire sculpture. I'm still seeing the details on the statue even though I'm facing the sun and the sun is right in the background. I can still see the details on the statue, and it's not overexposed in the sky too much. You're still seeing the blue in the sky, the gray in the clouds, and you're still seeing the details on the statue. It's not just shadows and the blown out sky. That's amazing. As it relates to colors, I mentioned colors earlier. It makes the colors pop. Even though these tweaks were done in Lightroom, the colors were still rich straight from the camera. And I like to bring my shadows and my blacks down. And even when doing that, I am not seeing any green or artifacts in my images. And that's amazing. That's something I love about this. I don't have to do any noise reduction to my photos. And there is very little chromatic aberration taking place in these photos that I have captured. I've never experienced any issues with chromatic aberration since editing photos from the Lumix, even though I don't think I have taken over 1,000 photos on the Lumix as yet. I'm not sure, maybe I did. I also did a graduation shoot for one of my friends to test the camera on humans or portraits. I'm not an alien, so why am I saying humans? On people, rather. And trust me, it's an amazing camera. I've used some Canon full frames, a Sony full frame before, and this camera is the best full frame camera I have ever used for photography since using cameras. And this is with the kit lens. I will say that over and over again. This only has an aperture, whatever the word is, of 3.5, and this was giving me some amazing bokeh in the background. The shallow depth of field from this was amazing compared to my APS-C sensor on my Nikon D3500. So I'm getting some pretty amazing shots from the Lumix, even with this very not so low aperture of 3.5 for the maximum aperture at the 20mm focal length. When you go up to 60mm on this kit lens, because it's the 20 to 60 millimeter rather, it gives you 6.5 or 5.5, I'm not sure, at the maximum focal length. I think it's 5.5 though, so it's 3.5 to 5.5 from 20mm to 60mm. So that's not a very fast lens compared to those other prime lenses that normally have an aperture of f1.8 on average, or maybe even go down to an f1.4. But this lens was holding up pretty well, even with such a high base aperture. And the color on these portraits, it's amazing. I know a lot of persons may say Panasonic tend to lean to the magenta side of things, but I'm loving the way the skin tones look on these photos. It's not looking too magenta for me. It looks just as it would look right from my eyes, but I'd like to make the colors of my photos pop a little more, so I will go into Lightroom and tweak the colors, maybe touch the saturation a bit, pull down my shadows, pull down my blacks, pull down my highlights, and leave my whites the same, then play with the curve a bit to bring more contrast into my photos, because I don't like pushing the contrast slider directly. And since this photo has a lot of blue in it, I will go on the color section and maybe boost the saturation of the blue a bit to make the photo a bit more appealing to the eye. And yeah, the photos from this camera is very amazing. They are very amazing so far. It's the best camera I have ever used thus far for photography, and I can't wait to get maybe a 85mm or 50mm prime lens f1.8 to take some superb portrait photos, because I am a sucker for depth of field. Now, even with the kit lens, which is a pretty cheap lens, even though it's a deal breaker for me because I'm getting a 20 to 60 lens with the camera for only $2,000. I can take wide angle, landscape, portraits, videos, a lot of stuff with this kit lens included in the package. This lens is pretty amazing. The details, it's sharp, the colors are rich. You can zoom in and still maintain a lot of resolution within the photos. The dynamic range, it's amazing. Also, this camera has HLG, and if I was to recommend this camera to anyone, I definitely would, because it's a no-brainer. It's affordable, it's amazing, it's compact, it's beautiful, and it more than gets the job done. In my video test, I will give you guys even more reason why you should consider putting this camera into your camera bag. So thanks for watching, guys. Hit the subscribe button if you like this video. Also hit the like button so I can maybe pop up into your recommendation whenever I release a new video. And also hit the bell icon so you get notified from your little notification bar on your mobile phone whenever I upload something new. And stay tuned for my next video on my Lumix S5. In that video, I will be talking about the video quality. King Crisis TV signing out.
You are watching King Crisis TV.